So welcome back guys to We Talk Boxing, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the sensational announcement which took place yesterday in regards to the February 22nd fight card, which is going to be taking place in Saudi Arabia. Now this fight card, for those that have been keeping up to date with boxing news or been on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, would have heard that we've got Dimitri Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev and Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker on the same bill. Now, majority of all these fights, there's 7 fights in total. I'm going to go through all the fights and I'll give my little bit of opinion in regards to each one. But every single fight has its own potential to headline a small arena or big arena, depending on where it's held. And it's by far the best card that we've seen today, and it's well worth the currently touted price of $19.99 in the UK, or I think 25 something if you're not in the UK. So yeah, well worth the money in my eyes, and can't wait for it. And what Turki Al-Sheikh is doing for boxing is phenomenal. Obviously, at this moment in time, he's not really in it to be making money. He's spending a lot of money. He's making these fights happen. I hope that it could continue, because there's only so long stuff like this could continue for before things change, and obviously they want to maybe start recouping some money, and then we're not going to be getting these sort of fight cards. So boxing fans need to enjoy it whilst we have it. And yeah, it's phenomenal. So let's start off with the main event. Okay, now the main bout on this card, which is taking place in February 22nd in Saudi Arabia, is the rematch between Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol. Now, this fight on its own is, or was, I should say, the first time round, phenomenal. We saw it being very, very close, and depending on who you spoke to, would turn around and say, "Oh, Artur won quite comprehensively," or Bivol, sorry, won quite easily. But I think in the end, the right decision happened, and obviously Artur was the main man. But it was a very, very, very close fight, and kind of, depending on who you speak to, a fight of two halves. Now, I will do a separate fight as we get closer to, sorry, a separate video as we get closer to the fight, but I favour Artur Beterbiev to do a number on Dimitri Bivol. Now, I just feel as if, like, now that he's been in there once with Dimitri Bivol, he's downloaded enough data to take the fight to him, and I actually feel as if he's going to stop him this time. And I feel as if he will stop him in the probably the first half of the fight. I just feel as if he's that sort of fighter, you know what I mean? But yeah, tremendous fight. Next on the bill, on the card, pretty much co-main event, is again heavyweight champion currently, Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker. Now, I don't really need to, be telling you who Daniel Dubois is, because we know what he did recently to Anthony Joshua. I was there live, and I was shocked. And I still haven't watched the video back, by the way. But yeah, so Daniel Dubois is the current IBF champion, and he's chose to take on a very tough opponent in his second defense of his title, and it's against someone who currently is on a 5 winning fight spree. And yeah, it's Joseph Parker. He's beat a lot of tough fighters in his wake to get where he is at this moment in time. People that realistically he shouldn't, no disrespect, shouldn't, but a lot of people had him down as the underdog, in fights against Zhilei Zhang and Deontay Wilder. We now know that Deontay Wilder is not the same Deontay Wilder that we know, but he didn't know that, and he took the fight to him and beat him. And obviously he'd done the same to Zhilei Zhang, and he had to climb up 3 times. I think, yeah, 2 or 3 times. in the fight against Zhilei Zhang as well. So he actually come back, and again it was a close fight, but he come back and beat him on points. So yeah, he's on tremendous form. As again, I will do a pre-fight video in regards to that fight as we get closer to the date. But yeah, phenomenal fight, and this fight could headline on its own. So yeah, two top fights there. We then go further down. Now we don't know which order these fights are going to be going off on, and it could go as it looks on the poster, but it might not. You know what I mean? Some of the fights could probably get pushed up. Certain fights could potentially get scrapped because people get injured, etc., etc. But I'll go through all the fights bit by bit. Now, another great heavyweight fight which is on the card is Zhilei Zhang versus Ajit Kabayel. Now, both guys, you know what I mean, they got tremendous records and are on brilliant form. We've got Zhilei Zhang currently 27 wins, 2 losses to his name, 1 draw. Again, we know who Zhilei Zhang is. He's a big Chinaman with a big punch, and he's a very durable punch with both hands, and is a problem for most heavyweights. And his last performance against Deontay Wilder absolutely destroyed him in 5 rounds. So he's coming off a lot of confidence, and the loss that he sustained to Joseph Parker in the fight before Deontay Wilder, he fully believes that he shouldn't have lost that fight. So you know what I mean, he's going in there in this fight to make a statement and to show people that his leagues above Ajit Kabayel, whereas vice versa, I could say for Ajit Kabayel, he's on tremendous form as well, currently undefeated, but he's took on 2 tough opponents in his last 2 fights. One of them, which I'm going to go back to late December 23, was against Arslanbek Makhmudov, and he TKO'd Makhmudov in 4 rounds, and he dropped him 3 times in that fight as well. Absolutely annihilated Makhmudov. And for those that don't know Makhmudov, he was touted as one of these tough, heavy-hitting, big-headed Russians who potentially could be a world champion at some point in the future. Obviously, once the big boys, your Usyk, your AJs, your Tyson, potentially retire, he was considered to be that next thing. Now, he's not young, but he was touted to be the next man to kind of rule for a little bit before other people take over. But Ajit Kabayel destroyed him. And then he took on Frank Sanchez in his next fight, and again he KO'd Frank Sanchez as well. And for those that don't know, Frank Sanchez is a good, very slick boxer from Cuba, and he absolutely schooled him in the whole fight, and he put him down twice in the 7th round before the referee eventually stopping him. And that claimed Ajit Kabayel a couple of little versions of the Continental, WBC and WBO, NAV, whatever belt that he had at the time as well. So yeah, tremendous fight, and again one that could potentially headline a small arena on its own. Now, another light heavyweight fight, which is on the bill. It sees 2 Brits go up against each other. It sees Joshua Buatsi, currently ranked number 3 in the ring ratings, take on number 6 in the ring ratings as well, Callum Smith. Now, Joshua Buatsi currently undefeated. Now, this isn't the fight that we wanted to see for Joshua Buatsi, because we wanted him to take on Anthony Yarde, who's number 4 in the ring rankings, I should say. So we wanted them to go up against each other, but for some reason they're just not able to sit down, finalise that deal, and to get in the ring with each other for some unknown reason. Definitely got to be contracts, maybe money, or something like that. I don't know what it is, but Joshua Buatsi now takes on Callum Smith. Now, Callum Smith fought a couple of days ago on the undercard of Sonny Edwards versus Galal Yafai. And he beat a guy that I don't even know who he is, but he put him down in the 4th and the 5th, I believe. Yeah, put him down a few times. So it's a case that was just more of a get me back into it type of fight. Callum Smith is a good boxer. One on the older side now, but he's got a good record. 30 wins, 2 losses to his name. He's lost To again, in regards to Callum Smith, yeah, he's lost to Canelo Alvarez, which I'm laughing there, but he absolutely took a beating to Canelo Alvarez, and yeah, massive destruction when he fought him. And the reason why I'm laughing a little bit, or smirking, I should probably say, is because Callum Smith was far the bigger man in that fight, and he just got annihilated quite easily, I should say. But he then came back after that Canelo Alvarez loss, won a couple of fights before taking on Beterbiev. So yeah, you know what I mean. His two losses today have come against the best, two of the best. So yeah, you can't really say much there. But again, got destroyed in that Beterbiev fight in 7 rounds. So yeah, it's probably more on the downward side in terms of his career. I see this as a make or break fight. Now, if he wins, he goes on and potentially try and fight for another world title to try and become a world champion again. If he loses, that could probably be it for Callum Smith. I can't see where he would go from there, because what else has he got to really achieve? Most people prior to this fight said that he should just retire anyway. So yeah, where would he go? Ideally, could he potentially move up to the cruiserweight division? That potentially could be an option, but what's the point, really? Yeah, so that's my thoughts on that fight. We then got a Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Israel Madrimov as well, so hopefully I haven't butchered his name. Now, this is going to be a very good competitive fight between the two 154 fighters. Virgil Ortiz currently unbeaten, 22-0, whereas Madrimov is currently 10-1-1, so his only loss coming recently to Terence Crawford. He suffered a 12 rounds unanimous decision loss to Terence Crawford, and again, it is Terence Crawford, a very talented, very special fighter. So you can't really take too much from that loss. And most people thought that the fight was a lot closer than what the actual scorecards were, and that potentially he even won the fight. So yeah, so he's coming off that loss with a lot of credit. Now, the only thing that I'm a little bit hesitant on is the fact that he's got, according to BoxRec, he's got 2 fights scheduled. Now, he's fighting on the undercard of Usyk versus Tyson rematch on the 21st of December. And then in February, he's obviously going to be taking on Ortiz Jr. Now, the guy that he's taking on in December, I don't know who this guy is, but maybe it could just be a get me back into it type of fight. I hope it is, because if it isn't and it's a tough fight, or if he gets hurt, then it's going to put him out for that fight in February. And if it does put him out for that fight in February, who could they potentially get um, to try and maybe replace him at that, not short notice, but who could they potentially get to try and replace him? Because it would be quite difficult, because people at this stage are going to be thinking about their next opponents, maybe going to be signing contracts to fight people in the early part of next year. But there are a couple of names there. Obviously, if they could get a Crawford versus an Ortiz Jr., that would be mental. Because again, you would have Crawford on this bill as well. That would just be unbelievable. But yeah, got a couple of other people in that division. Fundora could be a possibility as well. And then, you know what I mean, what are the Charlos doing? Who knows, really? Or maybe a Xander Zayas as well. So he's a good prospect as well, who at some point will be a world champion, believe me or not. And then in regards to the only other fight that well, a couple of fights that I haven't really mentioned. One of them is a Carlos Adames versus Hamzat Shiraz. Now, in terms of Carlos Adames, he is pretty much one of the main men in his division. Now, he's currently the WBC champion. There's 3 champions in this division. Lara's one of them, who's got the WBA, and then you've got a Janabek who's got the IBF and the WBO. But Janabek's pretty much classed as the main man in this division, whereas Carlos Adames is probably the second best champion, because Lara's probably more on the older side. So, but Lara's quite skillful. But I do favour Shiraz in this fight. I actually feel as Shiraz will probably stop this guy. I don't. I mean, this is just probably my heart thinking more than my actual brain at the minute, because I probably need to go away and watch Adama's fight. But Shiraz has got something about him. I do believe that, you know what I mean, he's going to potentially clean up this division. And that's why I'm banking on him so quite heavily. So I do believe that he's going to go in there, put on an absolute crazy performance. It's going to be his toughest fight to date, because Adames is a champion, and champions, you know what I mean, are not going to lay down for someone to take their belt. So it's going to be his toughest fight to date, but he's special, Shiraz, and I feel that he's going to put on a performance for us in Saudi Arabia. And then you never know, if he does manage to capture that WBC belt, what could potentially happen with him calling out maybe Eubank Jr. again, or maybe going after Janibek for a unification. Who knows? And then lastly, we've got Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield. Now, we all know who Shakur Stevenson is. Currently 22-0, undefeated. Prospect, recently injured. He was meant to be taking on a Joe Cordina, I think last month or a couple of months ago or something like that, but he hurt his hand. He had to have an operation, but he's back in training now. So obviously that operation went well. He's back in training and he's scheduled for this fight in February. Now, Floyd Schofield, I don't know who he is, so again, it's probably one of these that I probably have to go away, watch a couple of his fights, and see how he is in terms of his what he brings to the table. But it could be a problem for Shakur Stevenson, or it could be a performance that he goes out and be like, I am Shakur Stevenson. You know what I mean? I am one of the main men in this division. Who knows? You guys could probably let me know a little bit more information in regards to Floyd Schofield. I don't know too much about him. I know the name. I know he's been calling him out on Twitter and stuff like that. And they've been going back and forth. But that's pretty much it, really. But yeah, this is my thoughts in regards to the big event. Yes, the video is a little bit longer than normal. But it's a phenomenal card which has been announced, and it's one of them cards that we probably won't see something like this again. And if we do, then it's only going to be coming from the Saudis. Warren, Hearn, you know what I mean, Boxer, they can't match cards like this. These are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, please subscribe and comment. Bless.